Welcome to the Drive Podcast. I'm your host, Peter Attia. If you like this video, please let me know by subscribing to the channel or visiting my website to become a member for more exclusive content. What does that number tell us about mortality, right? I mean, I think that's a question, and I think we've got some data to talk about that. So, do you want to pull out one of these slides here?
Yeah, let's pull up. All right, I've got a slide up now.
Okay, so this took a group of people. Do you recall how old they were?
I don't, but I'm looking right here. Let's see. 53, about 53 on average.
Okay.
Right, mean age.
So, and it ran them through a VO2 max test, and then it ranked them. And low were people who scored, I believe, in the bottom 25th percentile. These are non-equally weighted groups, if my memory serves me correctly. But I think that low were the people in the bottom 25th percentile. Check me on that. Below average, I think, was 25th to 50 percentile, and then 50 to 75th percentile was above average, and high was like 75th to maybe 95th, and elite was just that top 5%. I'm probably off by a little bit, but directionally that's true. I just want to make sure people don't look at these and think that each of them represents 20% of the population.
Yeah, I think that's directionally accurate. I'm looking at their table one, their patient demographics. It's interesting. So it's a total of 122,000 patients. Mm-hmm. And if you look at the low, below average, and above average, and high, they're all about 30,000 participants in each one of those groups. And then you've got the elite, and there's a little over 3,500 versus the 30,000 that's split amongst those other groups.
Got it. Yep. Okay. So that's about what we just said there. Okay. So, and we're looking at all-cause mortality here, and you can see a pretty clear trend. So two things stand out, right? The two things that stand out are there's kind of a monotonic relationship between fitness and mortality. But the second thing that stands out is by far the biggest gap is between the people in the bottom 25%, which are categorized as low fitness, and basically everyone above them. So if you go to the next figure, Bob, I think we get to see this in a little bit more detail.
Yes.
Yeah, I like this. I like this figure, frankly, more because it allows us to see a bit more interesting stuff. So here we can see both for all patients, so lumping everyone in together, male and female, if you have low fitness, and then comparing it to everybody else, what's the risk reduction? So if you go from low to below average to above average to high to elite, you can see what is the hazard ratio. So it's interesting. Going from just being low to being below average is a 50% reduction in mortality over a decade if you're starting in your 50s. We're going to come back to that, but that is so important. Right?
It is. It seems like a weird message to give to somebody that, I want you to be below average, but that is definitely a step up from low in terms of how they categorize these.
That's right. If you then go from low to above average, it's about a 60% or 70% reduction in mortality. And it just continues monotonically to increase. Again, the lowest improvement is going from high to elite. That doesn't buy you a whole heck of a lot. It is still statistically significant, and to see that you have to look at figure C. Again, this is going to be one of those podcasts where it's really going to be better to watch this over video, because the data just speak for themselves, and of course the show notes are going to include all of these. So make sure you're looking at this, but. Remember, the hazard ratio for mortality is the reciprocal of the hazard ratio of risk reduction. So tables A and C are basically showing you similar things in the group comparison. So again, when I said that going from high to elite didn't have as much of a benefit, you can see it has the smallest hazard ratio of improvement in benefit, or the reduction going from high to elite. It's 29%. But notice that the confidence interval does not cross 1, and therefore the p-value is less than 0.05. Now, here's what's interesting. What they've done, and you can see all of these listed, right? So if you compare someone of low fitness to elite, it is a 5-fold difference in mortality over a decade, which is pretty remarkable. And that's what they show you above. They give you context. They put this in the context of other things that we commonly understand as being problematic for mortality, namely smoking, coronary artery disease, type 2 diabetes, hypertension, and end-stage renal disease. So look at these differences, right? So if you're, and I believe, Bob, this is not just for someone who's currently smoking. This is if you've ever smoked, right?
Yes. I think it was previously used or used tobacco. So they're really looking at the difference between never smokers. So you've never smoked in your lifetime to if you've ever smoked.
Okay.
That's right.
And that's a 41% increase in mortality over the decade. Coronary artery disease, 29%. Diabetes, 40%. High blood pressure, 21%. And the most of all of these things, end-stage renal disease, about 280% increase in mortality. Now, we all understand what that means, but now when you compare that to the differences in these fitness levels, it gives you, at least in my opinion, a greater appreciation for how much improvement in mortality comes from improving your fitness. So if you look at the biggest driver of mortality, which would be end-stage renal disease in this cohort, it's the same as going from low cardiorespiratory fitness to above average cardiorespiratory fitness. So going from the bottom 25th percentile to being in the 50th to 75th percentile, which is a totally achievable feat, as you'll see in a moment. So now let's put some numbers to this, because this is one of those things that we use a lot with our patients, because we want most of our patients, we want all of them doing this, but not all of them are willing to do it, but we certainly want everybody to have a VO2 max test so that we can kind of benchmark them on their way to their centenarian Olympics. So let's actually see what these numbers look like.